Hi, it's Isabel, A Curious Tale. Thanks for joining me today. I've been sharing a bit about the tarot deck I created, the Purnima Tarot, and my daily draws journal, but today I wanted to share a tarot curiosity. I really love watching different tarot YouTubers chat about decks they have that might be really hard to find or that I haven't seen before. And I don't know if I found one that's never been seen before, but I haven't seen this one before. I don't know if you can actually call it a tarot deck, but I think it's just really interesting sort of insight into early 2000s teen culture, which was, those were my teenage years, and just showing how something that might not be a serious tarot deck actually could be a serious tarot deck. Is all about how you approach it, and sometimes cards that might seem like a terrible interpretation of the card could actually be a really cool jumping off point for some new insights. So today I want to share this little tarot deck with you, see if anyone else had this, and also just have a flick through some 2001 teen magazines to see how tarot and witchcraft was presented back then and in pop culture, and just see this was probably quite a few people's first introduction to tarot, to witchcraft or anything like that, and I'm sure for some people it was just a passing interest, and maybe for other people it was the start of a lifetime dedication. So this is the deck. I'll flip through it later, but basically there was a sort of girl teen magazine in, I'm not sure the exact time it ran, but in the early 2000s, called Sugar magazine, and I'm sure anyone of a similar age to me in the UK just had some memories come up, hopefully nothing too bad, because it was the early 2000s, and not all of the topics were great or healthy, same as in any era, but I think it was a different time, it was a different aesthetic, and this tarot deck, I don't still have the magazine that it came with, but I know it did come with a little introduction to each card, but it was basically a piece of cardboard, and let's go to the start. You cut out the tarot cards from this cardboard, which I did, and it's just the major arcana. Some of the card titles have been changed, and it's this very sort of early 2000s digital art style that was popular at the time. And did I ever use them as tarot cards? I certainly played with them. I think around the same time my dad had given me his Marseille deck from the 70s, which is the complete opposite of this deck. And so I think this and the Marseille deck would be my proper introduction to tarot. And I kept it all these years. So let's say it was from the year 2000, that's a quarter century later. And it's just interesting. Does anyone else have this tarot deck? Did anyone else read Sugar magazine back in the day? Let me know, and let's have a little look at cards. So here's the deck. I don't know if the image quality is going to be very good because I'm filming this on my tablet, so I hope you can see the cards, because they are, you can see my hands are small and the cards are very small. But first we have the Fool. It shows a woman in a mask at some kind of party, and that's interesting for the Fool because the idea of the Fool wearing a mask concealing something, I mean, I think this is sort of looking at it from a court jester perspective. It's interesting. It's not something we usually see with the depiction of the Fool, and now I'm assuming this is presented as a serious tarot deck, but I'm going to take that it is. I'm sure this is the illustrator is very talented, and I'm sure, that they were trying to translate tarot into a language that, a preteen girl of the early 2000s would want to interact with. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to think, what could wearing a mask mean when it comes to the fool? Dressing up, performing, being the court jester. That's quite interesting. I'm not sure, I need to think about that. Now we have the magician, classic, purple hair, the colour of intuition, crystal ball, pretty classic. And again, another image that sort of shows magic, female empowerment, as it was shown around the millennium. Now obviously, you know, it's not lost on me that the idea of female empowerment was such a big part of pop culture back then, but a lot of the beauty standards were, I mean, they're always strict, but the early 2000s wasn't just strict, it was arguably vicious. So that was always the sort of dichotomy going on there. And I'm sure a lot of people remember that, but it's one of those things, it never truly dies, does it? Here's the High Priestess. Yeah, we've got the yin-yang symbol, balance. She's doing yoga, she might be meditating. Interesting. Just a classic, yeah, sort of classic depiction of spirituality as seen in Western media in the early 2000s. Then we've got the Empress wearing a very millennial tracksuit with a crown motif on it. Could it be a Juicy Couture tracksuit? It could be. And we've got chess, you know, she's playing chess, she is in charge of the game, she's the queen in chess. I don't know, it's giving me the idea of someone who's empowered, she's got her stuff together, she's feminine, she's thriving. I don't know. That's what it's giving me. Then we've got the Emperor, he's got his little crown motif, he's also playing chess. Yeah, interesting. The High Priest instead of the Hierophant, I'm not really surprised they didn't use Hierophant. This High Priest is a lot more sort of understandable to a young audience. He's also got the same yin-yang sign as the High Priestess. He's doing judo, which, you know, that is a tradition that he's taking part in. He's mastering his mind, he's seeking equilibrium, perhaps. Yeah, interesting. The Lovers, pretty classic depiction of this amorous couple. This is the Chariot. I like this one. The woman, she's driving her car, though it looks like she's driving into traffic. Maybe she's about to make a turn. Yeah, I love that. Funnily enough, in my tarot, the Purnima tarot, the Chariot is a scooter, which makes sense because I feel like in Nepal, what could the Chariot be apart from a scooter? It was a classic choice. But I'm like, did seeing this card influence me all these years later to make the Chariot a scooter? Maybe, maybe not. I just thought it was funny. Then we've got Strength. Oh yeah, these cards aren't numbered, but they came in a sequence, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she's got weights, she's training, she's building her strength. There's also, I guess, that idea of balance there as well. I like this one, the Hermit, this guy wearing, again, a classic millennial beanie with a lighthouse, and because I feel like it sort of taps into that idea that, you know, someone going off on their own, if you're staying in a lighthouse, of course, you're far away from everyone, you're alone, but that is necessary, and it's a beacon of light to others, helping others to find their way. Much like in the Marielle Tarot, I think it's the Hermit. She talks a lot about the Creator, about the Hermit's lamp being light, or this idea of this maverick or iconoclast going on a journey that's a bit different to what everyone else does, and that can help, you know, guide others. Your search for self-realization can guide others to do the same. That idea of solitude and going on personal quests being a guiding light for others, I think that's really interesting. Wheel of Fortune, bicycle wheels with all different directions. It's interesting because normally the Wheel of Fortune, it has this idea that you're not in control of the wheel is turning and you are, you know, you're there but you're not making it turn. Other forces are, whereas here of course you're the one making the wheel turn, but there are many different directions you could go in. And yeah, it's just interesting because even though you might point the bike in the right direction, you don't necessarily know what lies down the path of those different directions. So there's still that element of unknown, but there's more of a feeling of you're in the driver's seat. Then we've got Justice, classic, Supergirl. It's a very, it's giving Britney Spears' toxic music video aesthetics very much. Yeah, she's dispensing justice. It doesn't matter what society and the authorities say. She is a vigilante, which taps into the idea of, is justice following the rules? Is justice following your morals? I think especially nowadays, well, I suppose in all times, but it really seems in media that's really at the forefront, this idea of, in a lot of places, it seems now that following many rules are actually pretty immoral. And then what do you do? That push and pull, and this is sort of embracing the archetype of being led by morals, of dispensing justice outside of social constraints. I think that's interesting. The Hanged Man, got a lady in her underwear with her clothes there. She's not quite ready to choose her outfit yet. She hasn't begun the day yet. She's taking a pause. That's interesting. I actually really love this death card. These fishnet tights and then the shadow of the Grim Reaper. I think that's simple, but it's really striking. The shadow of death, it follows us all, doesn't it? Yeah. This is the most early 2000s card possible, right? Temperance has been renamed as self-restraint, and now, a common interpretation of temperance is balance. And I've seen card interpretations where there'll be, on one side sort of things that represent junk food and hedonism, and on another side there'll be a very sort of pop culture rendition of Zen and minimalism, and the idea of a balance of the two. Now, it's the early 2000s, we're not seeking balance, we're just seeking deprivation here, because all she is seeming to think about is junk food as she steps on the scale and measures her waist. You could say, is this a great card for preteens? They're just trying to go to school and do their homework. They don't need to be dieting. And it's not the best, is it? But I think it's interesting because you can look at a card and be like, oh my god, that's a terrible... I mean, not only is balance a sort of oversimplified version of the idea of temperance anyway, you're not even going for balance, you're just going for self-restraint. But I think if you were using this for yourself, that could be an interesting start of a conversation, Seeing this image, what does it remind you of? What memories does it bring up? In what way has, the media's fixation on, not solely, but a lot of the times, female restraint, ignoring needs or desires to fit into a very narrow idea of beauty, and even wondering why that would be the driving force in your life anyway. What does that make you think about? If you were going to journal, there's so much you could journal about here. What is self-restraint? Of course, in the media, it's often relating to food or perhaps personal relationships, but what does it mean? What are the benefits of asceticism? What are the benefits of hedonism? Where do you fall on that scale? Of course, somewhere in the middle is generally a good idea, but where do you fall there? There's so much that you could ask yourself with this card. So although I think it's pretty terrible rendering of the card, I think how bad it is gives you so much to work from. If for yourself, you would not want to pull that for someone else. I mean, that's a little time capsule, although obviously, these thoughts sort of never really go away, and if anything, they're of course coming back. Then we've got the Devil. She's look at that outfit, straight out of a classic music video. And then this woman, she's, again, the shadow's the devil, and she's sort of making the devil horns herself. She's embodying the devil, but it's presented in quite an empowering way, which is, again, pretty much the opposite of the self-restraint card. But yeah, what does tapping into that side of you mean? I always like to think of the classic Rider-Waite-Smith depiction of the devil holding people with chains, and you know, you could be one of those people who's been chained up by the devil, but you could be the devil who's doing that to other people. And there's always two ways to look at that card, so I think that's interesting. The Tower, she's about to jump 10-meter diving board, pretty high. So again, instead of the tower falling down from some outside force, this is, you know, she's going to jump off. She's taking that leap out of her own volition. So that's a bit of a different rendering of the cards, and again, with my more focus on empowerment and the idea that you can take that leap to make a massive change. You don't have to wait for it to happen to you. Here's the Star. Again, what a Millennium style image. Disco ball, stars, little mini skirt. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, the star is here presented as you are the star, allowing yourself to be the sort of main character, as people like to say nowadays, allowing yourself time to enjoy after different challenges. That's an interesting interpretation. The Moon, classic woman on the rooftop with the full moon with the black cat. I like how the moon is sort of illuminating part of her with different colour scheme. Yeah, it's quite enjoy this card. Stepping into intuition, things being illuminated. The sun, of course, sunbathing. That was tanning in the UK was such a thing in the early 2000s. Although this sun does look sort of like, I don't know, a bacteria under the microscope, or was it a red blood cell or something? It's a little violent. So that could, I mean, you could definitely use this card to tap into the idea of, you know, the sun is great, it warms us, it nourishes us, but when you get too much sun, you know, you can burn, you can get sick. I feel like this card is pretty good at tapping into that idea of the card. Judgment's the judge. We've got a judge in a courtroom, and then we've got the silhouette of a woman with the scales of justice. Maybe this could be saying, you know, there's different types of judgment. There's judicial, societal judgment, and then there's a sort of above that, a divine judgment, if you will, and again the push and pull between those because they're not always the same. Then we've got the World, classic Miss World, you know, beauty pageant. Again, it was the era of Victoria's Secret, of that film Miss Congeniality. It was a big thing. So again, very, very classic. She's Miss World. She's won the title. She has ascended, and you know, now what is next for her? So yeah, that's the deck. What do you think? It's interesting. Is it a real tarot deck? Let me know. I'm gonna say it is. Why not? You know? And some of these images are pretty charming. I think some of my favourite cards would be the Magician, sort of aesthetically speaking. And then in terms of how it's been rendered, I like the Chariot. I like the idea of that. I really like the Hermit. And yeah, I think my favourite card there is this Death card because it's pretty iconic. I think it looks really good. And yeah, there's the deck. And here I have a few magazines. I just wanted to show just a few parts of them. This one I cut the cover off. I'd been using it to collage, so she is incomplete, but I just wanted to show just as a little insight into the time. So this is not Sugar magazine that the tarot deck came free with. This is Ms. magazine, but it's very much a similar vibe. I love just how eclectic and maximalist the spreads are. You know, I always wish that like high fashion magazines would take more of this approach. Interestingly, they do in Japan, but not so much here. But yeah, it's so bright. This was a big thing, people sort of sharing their embarrassing stories, because being embarrassing was, you know, the worst thing ever. And oh, this as well, these quizzes where you say yes or no and you find out something about your personality, they were so big. Oh, and this lip gloss I wanted so bad, and yeah, I wish they still made it, because now I would totally buy it. Yep, people just sharing their woes, getting advice. In fairness, this is interesting. I was just for fun like reading through this, and some of the advice is actually really good and pretty specific and quite healthy. So although, you know, the aesthetics, you could say in the early 2000s they weren't great, there really was a move to be more transparent about things, and you know, a lot of the sharing of stories and advice, it wasn't all bad. Oh, I remember this advert, it was everywhere. Oh, and these like little cartoons, I think I used to make some myself with illustrations. I just love them so much. We've got music, posters. Oh, and this photo shoot. Wait, which year is this from? Oh, it's not written. It's either 2000 or 2001. And I saw this, I was already into sort of gothic fashion myself, and I just love everything. There is not a look or a garment that I would not still want to wear today. And I actually have many similar clothes. I mean, look at these. I feel like any of these looks could be worn today and people would love it. You know, you've got studded belts, flares, dresses, everything. Oh, and I have to go and show you something, because this brand, Custard Shop, was really big back in the day, and I loved it. I have a few pieces by it, and this skull top, I actually have a belt, the exact belt. Yeah, I realised the light was also reflecting really badly, so I just changed that. But yeah, look at this. This is a really big type of belt as well, where you sort of, it like sits on the fabric strap. But yeah, here's another little bit of fashion history at this point, because yeah, this is 25 years ago we're talking about. But yeah, this is, see, very much my style, still is. And then let's see. Got some Halloween costume ideas. Oh, and these ringtones. Paying for a ringtone. I did not have a phone back then, so I couldn't do that, but that was massive. And actually they would be really good lists of, you know, what was popular music back then, because they had all of the main songs from the charts, which back then still meant something. Books, vampire hunters, along with, you know, witches. Vampires were massive in the early 2000s, but I think that's something that's never really gone away. Oh, Halloween. See, has much changed? I don't know. Oh, and this is fun. This is all about Halloween. So it's saying Halloween was originally celebration linked to the ancient religion paganism. It was called Samhain, pronounced Samhain, which means the end of summer. The festival welcomed the start of winter and the beginning of the pagan new year. See, like, it was in pop culture. I love this illustration. Again, these colours are so nostalgic for me. So you've got some little facts, and then some little writing in. Someone's house is haunted. And someone wants to ask the psychic if they will actually be a famous singer. And then we've even got a spell, which of course, it's the early 2000s. It's about let's see, get him out of your head. So it says, if it's well and truly over, but you still can't get him out of your mind, try this bit of magic with an egg. So yeah, the circle has been cast, time to end the past. This is so Charmed, isn't it? Like the TV show. It's just such a whimsical approach, and I feel like some people could say, yeah, oh, it's disrespectful, it's sort of watering it down. And I'll say yes, you could say that, but it's also getting people involved. It's interesting. And here we've got another where you can purchase ringtones. Then we've got Ms. magazine, which actually has a cover. Very, very old. So these creatures, I think they will bang on the door. They were everywhere back then. Oh, and I just saw this actress sadly passed away recently, which is sad. Yeah, we've got celebrities. Let's see. Try and flick through a little quicker. I also seem to have collages. Oh, this is fun. It's showing people from all different decades, what stuff cost and what life was like back then. And so we can see from 2002, a bag of chips was £1, a bus ride was 95p, a can of Sprite is 50p. How things have changed. And I love this image. Oh, it's 9/11. Yep, that's what they chose. And then, wait, is it? Yeah, it is. Denim, of course. Music. Fox hunting, that was a big issue. I mean, it actually still is, despite it being banned, unfortunately. Yep, sharing of stories. These pages are a little crispy, sorry. An archaeologist, TV show, we've got some more posters. See, I never used any of these posters. They weren't quite my music taste. I think the early 2000s for me, it was all about Blink-182, The Offspring, Marilyn Manson, early, not later, Green Day. What else? Oh, so many more. But yeah, that was more my vibe. This is so cool. It says, spooky. When it comes to magic and mystery, haunt along with our spiritual sister Lucy. So we have Lucy. I wonder, like, has she gone on to write any books? I wonder. I absolutely love her hair. She could be a character in Charmed, couldn't she? So cool. So she is this resident witch and psychic, and she has created this spread. Again, this is about, you know, the idea of like witchcraft and magic really being in pop culture at the millennium. And this is even about tarot. It says tarot is a set of cards showing magical symbols and images. If you want me to shed light on a problem for you or a mate, send me your name and number and I'll determine your fate. So we have Cherie from Wolverhampton is worried that people are being mean about her, and Lucy drew the devil, which shows a, I quote, scary goat man controlling two people with chains. Means we shouldn't be down on ourselves. Instead of trying to be what other people want you to be, just be yourself and you'll feel much happier. It works for me, why don't you give it a go? Good luck. I mean, that's good advice, isn't it? I feel like you could definitely have taken that card in a different way in relation to that question. But you know, that's, again, it's interesting. It's like actually introducing tarot cards. The last one had a spell to try out. Like here we've got do-it-yourself magic, and again, stop bullies in their tracks with this strong spell. So early 2000s. And then we've even got, look, pop stars of the day and which goddess archetype they represent. You can test how psychic you are by essential oils. So it's really trying to get people to interact, like engage with this. It's so fun, so different. Do you think, I guess magazines aren't really a thing nowadays, so you can't really say if it would be the same. Oh, I love this as well. Do TV magic. That again, so early 2000s. I like this one. It says, to guard against becoming a couch potato, hold a crystal in your palm while you're watching TV, and then each time you remember it's there, decide whether to carry on viewing or get up and do something else. I mean, it's not bad advice, is it? Then we've got star signs, again, such a massive thing. Jewellery, let's see. Frosted was a big thing back then. Which celeb is cool? We've got votes for J-Lo, Destiny's Child, Pink, another for J-Lo, and Alicia Keys. DIY, music, Britney, she was everywhere. I love this illustration, it's so cool. I think the rest are actually cut out, that's why there aren't more. And again, more ringtones. And then finally, we've got like a summer moment. More celebrities. Oh, this from the Lady Marmalade video was an iconic moment at the millennium. It really changed so much. I remember seeing that video and I just thought they looked so cool. Again, Destiny's Child. I was like Michelle. I feel like she was the mysterious one. You didn't know so much about her. I love this. It's an advert that got withdrawn from the Advertising Standards Agency. I wonder what that was meant to be. I like how they didn't like replace it. Yeah, see how bright stuff is. How also I feel like this was sort of marketed to preteens, and there was definitely more of a sense of you're still a child. Very British. My friends drink alcohol when you're 12. What do you do about it? Very British. And yeah, it's so colourful and so youthful. I feel like maybe this age group is certainly being marketed to in not really in a dissimilar way to adults nowadays, but back then it was such a different demographic. Although of course, you know, this kind of stuff was popular for all age groups. I love all these pastel colours. More quizzes. Soap news, that was a big thing. I was not allowed to watch soap operas when I was younger, which I'm not mad about. I think that was pretty fair. It was such a big thing. We've got stars. Ooh, Mystic Matt's spooky. So you've got spooky news from around the world. You've got write-ins. Oh, I love this. It's like your shoe habits depending on the element that rules your star sign. So we've got water, air, earth, and fire feet. And then this is a protective parent spell. Do you wish your parents would treat you like an adult? Then weave this little bit of magic on them. I love how tailored it is. So cute. So yeah, these were the magazines. Do you still have any of these? I used to have such a good collection of these magazines, but these are the only ones that made it this far. And yes, it's just a fun to look back on, because you know, when you watch videos and stuff, it's different than magazines, which was such a big part of life. So, did you ever read this magazine? Did it traumatize you? Did it inspire you? Do you have any funny memories? And yeah, let me know. And same about the deck. So that was the deck and the magazines. Yeah, a little window into pop culture at the millennium. At least for me, it really felt like witchcraft and magic it was just such a big thing back then. And although it had definitely been presented in each decade of you know, the 21st century in a different way, and it had often been linked to sort of female empowerment, the early 2000s was, in pop culture, you know, girl power was such a big like catchphrase, and it was just presented in a way that it wasn't necessarily counterculture as maybe it had been seen in other decades. I would say it was almost, you know, at the center of pop culture. So I think that's interesting. And then going into the later 2000s, 2010s, I think that sort of continued, just the aesthetics changed and the nuances changed. But yeah, it was an interesting time. Do you still watch any of those TV shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Charmed, Sabrina the Teenage Witch? Did it influence your interest in tarot and that world, or did it put you off it? I feel like it could have had that effect on some people. Yeah, it's just really interesting. I love media from different decades, and I love just seeing how aesthetics can be like a window into a certain time, and with that comes so many memories and so many just specific feelings. And yeah, to me it's very interesting. Have I found a tarot deck that hasn't been shown on YouTube before? Probably not, but I hope that you enjoyed this and maybe had some good memories, and yeah, just had a window into a different aesthetic. Yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, I want to keep sharing some tarot curiosities from my collection, so let's see what I cover next. But yeah, I hope you have a nice day. Bye!